welcome to our next talk. As I hear, it's always a bad idea to have keys. You depend on their security. And our next speakers will tell about Intel just doing that and some key getting lost and what else happened. All the details you will hear from him. Please give a warm welcome to Wanda and Zech.
Very well. I am Wanda, this is Sagar.
Say hi, yeah.
Hi, so can you start?
Okay, so we'll start with a video from, well, it says 2010 here, so it's probably 2010. 27 CV where we presented here console hacking for PS3. Yeah, space, I guess. Yeah. Or it doesn't work.
It's an international team with, I think we have members on almost every continent. Let's see. We may be familiar faces because 2 years ago we presented, Mark and I presented on some of the hacks we'd done for the Wii. A year before that I had demonstrated the first unsigned code execution on the Wii here at 24C3. 2008, us Wii hackers together with some of the iPhone hackers that I know worked together as Wii phonies. We won the capture the flag of that year and then decided to change the name to Fail Overflow for a variety of reasons. And since then we've been collaborating on various embedded and thought expansive projects, the most famous of which that hit the press earlier this year was the full reconstruction of the allowing to be completely broken. That was a fun couple of weeks.
So that was the HDCP key, master key, whatever we want to call it. That's what I called it. Still call it. Yeah. Important thing about the presentation then, important for anyone here, if you wear a black suit, black shirt, you're fine. If you wear a white shirt, you're suit. So this year we got shirts with a splash of color and our designer took it very literally. So, yeah. First, yeah, the master key. This is the master key as we put it on pastebin, basically. Yeah. This is big matrix of big numbers. So what is HDCP? HDCP is this thing that anything you care about, HDMI, DVI actually, DisplayPort, everything uses to supposedly protect all content, the media, the DVDs you display, whatever. So it's never displayed by an unlicensed device. Yeah. Why do we care? Why? Some of us sometimes want to display our own stuff, right? And it prevents us from doing that. Why is that? That's not fair. And what can we do about it? Right, well, hack the bloody thing, of course. What else? Yeah. So I found a firmware update for some BIOS for some device that has a graphics card in it, that has a key pair for HDCP in it. So I was like, I can use that, yes. And then I found another firmware update with and then another. And then in the end I had like 7, 8, 9, I'm not sure. But that's not enough because you need a bit over 40 to reconstruct what we call a master key, so we can make our own keys, right? So where can we get more key pairs? More that valid key pairs that we know are valid key pairs. We try to use Macintosh laptops because failover people at least have access to many Macintosh laptops. Many of us have one. That's good start. And we have access to some people who work at Apple that also help. But we could not actually get the keys out of the BIOS and whatever, because it's not where it's stored. That's, yeah, you can blame us that we couldn't do the impossible? Okay, yeah. New approach. The keys must be stored close to the video driver, video hardware. So let's get the stuff from there, right? So we ask Wanda. Yeah.
Yep. So, hi, I am Wanda. In 2010, I was working on reverse engineering Nvidia GPUs for the purpose of making open source drivers, which you may have heard of. And at the time, I was working on reversing some mysterious firmware related to video decoding. It involved some cryptographic coprocessor that I didn't really understand in the beginning. I talked about it a bit on IRC, and at one point I was contacted by members of the failoverflow group who have been attracted by my mention of cryptographic stuff. And then I became the Nvidia consultant in this little project. And in the end, we have managed to extract some nice keys from Nvidia GPUs. So, the video decoding blobs. It turns out that the Nvidia GPUs have a bunch of, let's call them management cores, that run custom code on the GPU that manages video decoding and many other things. In the beginning, it was just video decoding. Now it's like everywhere. I have no idea how many of these management cores they have these days. So, the management cores on NVIDIA use a custom instruction set, which is called Falcon. The instruction set is really unremarkable. There is nothing interesting about it. It's like a standard RISC. The management cores have their own bit of static RAM for code and another bit of static RAM for data. It's a Harvard architecture. And the nice part about it is that the static RAM for the code is really small, so they thankfully don't have huge blobs that you have to decompile. They have only tiny blobs. I'm very glad about this. And the thing we have been looking at the time was the very first revision of this architecture, version 0, which was used in very few devices, like basically only one GPU and 2 motherboard chipsets that had integrated GPUs. At the time, the GPUs had 4 Falcon cores, 3 of which dealt with various pipeline stages of video decoding. And one of them, the SEC Falcon, was a special management core for secure stuff and DRM. And that is the thing that we were interested in. The Falcon architecture has an extension point where they can bolt on a secure coprocessor, which is meant to, I don't know, secure, contain, and protect their secrets. And this is the bit that interested us. It extends the Falcon ISA with AES encryption opcodes, some weird key storage things, and with code signing. And this bit interests us because it turns out that the secure Falcon is involved in getting the HDCP keys decoded. So, how HDCP works? Every device in the world that supports HDCP has its own key, so they can revoke keys. Like if you just leak a single HDCP key, it will be put on a revocation list, which is like included on every DVD ever released. And that HDCP key will no longer be accepted by any devices that accept the update. The HDCP keys are large. They are 285 bytes, apparently I have computed. So Nvidia decided to store them in I2C EEPROM on the GPU, an external small chip. And since this is I2C, it's an externally accessible bus, they need to be encrypted. And the sec Falcon is the thing that decrypts the keys. Basically, the host driver reads the keys from the I2C EEPROM, puts them to Falcon data segment, and runs a special piece of Falcon code that decrypts the keys and sends them to the display unit, where they will be used for key negotiation and whatnot. This bit of logic doesn't interest us. So, we looked at the SCP coprocessor, and this part is actually interesting. So first of all, it adds code signing to the whole Falcon architecture. The Falcon processor can be in secure mode or non-secure mode. This is the earliest version. In newer versions, I think they also added some light secure and heavy secure modes. Honestly, I don't really understand these new additions. On version 0, it was quite simple. The SCP coprocessor has 8 registers, each of them 128-bit, which are used for doing cryptography stuff. It has, well, cryptographic opcodes for AES encryption, decryption, CMAC computation, and some basic operations like moves, XORs, ANDs. And the interesting bit about these registers is that they have a fancy ACL feature. So each of the 8 registers can be individually marked as readable or not by non-secure code, readable or not by secure code, writable or not by non-secure code, and usable as key, which is a separate permission, by secure or non-secure code. It's a weird architecture. I'm not completely sure why they made it like this, but it was very useful. The SCP also has secrets, which is the fun part. They have 63 secret values in it, which are used for various purposes. I am not completely sure what all of them are for. Like I think Nvidia just pre-allocated 63 completely random secrets, and then whenever they needed some new DRM scheme, they allocated a few more of the secrets to the new DRM scheme. 1 or 2 of them are used for HDCP. 2 of them are used for code signing itself, as it turns out, and there's a lot of more that I have never figured out. The SCP also has like a true random number generator, which isn't really related to what we did at all, but it's there. It has DMA capabilities, and it has 1 per device key, which also wasn't used in what we did. The 63 main secrets are identical across all GPUs of a given generation, and the 1 per device key is, well, per device. And how does the secure mode work? So, you can just upload code to the Falcon processor to execute it. And when you do it, it will be run in the non-secure mode, which of course doesn't have access to any secrets. If you want to access secrets, you have to enter the secure mode, which is done as follows. You upload the secure code to the code segment. You use some special operations to mark it as secure. You need to have a cryptographic signature, a mark that verifies the secure code as coming from Nvidia. And you have to put the signature in one of the SCP registers. And then you just jump into the code. And then a bit of weird magic happens. When you jump to a code segment marked as secure, the jump will be intercepted by secret ROM that will verify your signature. And if the signature turns out to be correct, if this is legitimate NVIDIA code, it will actually set up some stuff and jump to the code in secure mode. And if the signature isn't correct, you get an exception, which, well, the exception mechanism of Falcon is not really interesting. I won't get into that. So, what do we do about this? We looked at the HDCP firmware. Unsurprisingly, it used the secure mode. The good thing is that the code wasn't encrypted. We could just read it. It was only authenticated. And the code turned out to, well, just get the keys from the host driver, decrypt them using some secrets extracted from the mask ROM, and using also some weird operations that we didn't understand at the time, and then send it to the display unit. Interestingly enough, the per device key was not involved in the decryption mechanism at all, so every GPU had the same decryption key for the HDCP keys. So, we looked closer at the SCP registers. The really fun thing about SCP is that they were clever in the design, too clever. So you have the ACLs, you have registers with secrets that you cannot read, but you can still do operations on them. You can load an arbitrary secret into a register, and you can XOR it with another register, and it will be just fine. The SCP will execute the XOR. You will just be unable to read the result because the ACLs propagate. Hey, nice, fun construction, very secure. There was only one problem. The secure mode entry. It turns out that the operation that compares the signature with the correct signature doesn't check if you have the right to actually read the signature you are presenting. So we made use of that. Here is how to read a secret from the SCP. You grab whatever you want to read. You select which bit you want to read because you can only read one at a time. You load a value with this particular bit set into some other crypto register and no other bits, like a single 1 bit and all other bits are 0. Then you end it with the secret you want to read and XOR this into the real valid signature of whatever NVIDIA code you have on hand, and then try running it. And this results in a signature that maybe is correct, maybe not, depending on the value of the one secret bit you want to check. And you just see if the code still runs. If it still runs, it means that the bit you were trying to read is 0. If the secure mode entry crashes, it means that there was a 1. And this is how we can read any secret from SCP bit by bit. Like, it's really funny to me because people have asked me before this talk if they should come because there's going to be some advanced crypto hacking. No, there isn't. Like, all the device hacks that are done like this. There's some random weird bug in the security that's just completely bypasses everything. Anyway, we can now read all SCP secrets, but it turns out that this wasn't enough because the HDCP decryption code also used some weird opcode, weird SCP opcodes specifically, as part of the key derivation sequence. And we tried running that opcode in non-secure mode, but it did nothing. And if we tried to just run the algorithm without this opcode, it didn't decrypt the keys properly. So we were kind of stumped, and we didn't know what the hell is going on with this opcode. Eventually, we decided that we need to figure out a way to forge signatures for this processor and reverse the missing opcode by just running it ourselves. So how do we forge signatures? We have, of course, just tried pulling random signature algorithms and trying them out, but we couldn't find any algorithm that matched the signatures on Nvidia code, even putting all the secrets we extracted into it. But here's a fun thing. If you fail entering the secure mode, if you present an invalid signature, the SCP just helpfully leaves the correct signature it compared against in one of the other cryptographic registers. And we can just read it. Or actually, we don't need to read it. We can just move it to the correct register and retry it, and this will work. So we tried reversing the missing opcode, and it turns out to be some really weird primitive that, honestly, I have no idea what it is for. The missing opcode was just encrypt this particular block using the current secure code's MAC as a key, which, of course, isn't really a secret. You just presented the MAC when you were starting the secure code. It definitely added some obscurity to the key derivation sequence and had us stumped. We could have maybe just guessed that it was this opcode, but who would have expected it? It's just weird. And here's a really fun thing. The result of this operation in this particular code was just equal to some other mask key that was used in the derivation sequence. Like, the entire thing was a knob. I still don't understand why. But hey, that has delayed us for a few days. And once we knew that, we gained the capability to just dump the full HDCP key from any device that used this particular generation of Falcon, which meant any G98-based GPU. G98 is, by the way, a very low-end GPU, like the smallest Tesla, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
And any MCP77 or MCP79 based motherboard, which also has like an integrated GPU. Nice. Now, these are the bits that we figured out years later. We didn't use them in the HDCP key extraction, but it turns out that the magic MAC algorithm we couldn't figure out was actually an obscure variant of, what is it called? Davis-Mayer construction,
Yeah.
which turns AES into a hash function. Apparently, the SCP only has one operation, which is AES, so they use it as a block cipher and hash function and everything, combined with also a weird variant of CMAC. It's not real CMAC. And unfortunately for us, the flows we have been using have been fixed on the immediate next version of the Falcon hardware, version 3 hardware. So this hack only worked on these particular 3 GPUs and not the next generation GPUs. That wasn't our doing, by the way. The fixed Falcons appeared before we ever looked at it. Anyway, we had a very narrow range of GPUs where we could extract HDCP keys from. And in another bit of an unrelated history, what is the best way to attract hackers to hack your platform? Well, of course you should use it in a video console. So a lot of people contacted me again a few years later when Nintendo released the Switch. It turns out that, someone has completely hacked the boot ROM on the ARM used in the Nintendo Switch and completely broke the root of trust on Nintendo Switch. And Nintendo tried to fix it. They figured, well, our ARM CPU is completely broken now, but we still have the Falcon core on the same chip. Let's use that as the new root of trust. And that attracted many people to the Falcon core. Anyway, the new version Falcon, which we didn't manage to hack in 2010, turned out to not really be secure either. It turns out that you could smash the stack on the Falcon using the DMA controller on the Falcon. Just before running secure code, you start DMA engine to override the stack in the secure code and trace it. And the Falcon and Nintendo Switch was hacked again.
It was more than a week. It was more than a week. They actually got more than a week out of it. Yep. Not 2 weeks though. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so this is all fun. We have a few HDCP keys, but what do you do with single HDCP keys? Like, if you leak single HDCP keys, they will just be revoked, and you will not be able to do anything with them after the next update. So how does the scheme really work, and what is the master key?
The master key. I came up with the name myself because it's like a skeleton key. Yeah. Linear algebra. I called this part linear algebra to scare people. Right. Oh, what? Yeah. It's really simple. So we wanted to get a lot of keys. So Bushing decided to buy a lot of really cheap devices, right? Really simple video cards from Newegg, online retailer thingies. And you can send stuff back to them and they buy them back and you get the day price back for it. So we made money. Yay. I don't recommend trying that. This is not a viable business plan. You cannot live off it. That's right. I don't. Well, maybe you can. I don't think you can. This is one of the cards. Yay! Anyone can come look at it in person, but it really doesn't look any better than this. Well, this is just a box. The card looks like this, and it's not actually much better.
I think we wanted to return the cards as defective because someone hacked the HDCP keys on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So now we had enough keys to do whatever we wanted. In HDCP there are 2 actors. There's a sink and there's a source. And the sink consumes the data and the source produces the data. Yay. A sink is like a video display, HDTV, whatever. It uses its own private key together with the source's public key, which is transmitted to it when the bloody thing is plugged in, right? To calculate shade secrets. Oh. Yeah. And the sink, the source, the video card does the same thing, but the other way around with its public key, or its private key actually, the public key of the thing. And the shared secret in compute is the same bloody number. That's what the HDCP standard says it is anyway, so let's trust it is that way, right? The public key, they call it the key selection vector, which is just a string of 40 bits, which says which 20 of the 40 numbers of the private key of the other guy should be used. And saying 1 for do use this one and 0 for don't use this one is exactly the same as multiplication, so it's just internal product with really trivial mathematics. So when you have any number of known valid key pairs, you can make any linear combination of them, of the public keys, and those work just fine with the same linear combination of the private keys, which is important. Yeah. And that is exactly the same as Gaussian elimination is. And Gaussian elimination in Dutch, my language, is a much nicer word to it. We use the word to sweep something for it, to wipe something. Vegen. Yeah. It's so evocative. It expresses what you do. You just clear the whole thing. Yeah. But you cannot actually do the same thing as what you normally think about Gaussian elimination. You cannot actually do it because you're not actually working over vector space, as you learned in high school. We're working over set over 2 to the 56 set, which is a really simple, it literally just means 56-bit binary numbers, basically. And that isn't filled. You cannot divide by every number. You cannot divide by any even number. So it's not a vector space, but it's not a problem for most things. Well, I say everything works as expected, that's not true, but almost everything works as expected. But there isn't a unique solution to the inverse of a matrix. None at all, actually. And there isn't enough data to actually make a complete inverse of the matrix anyway. We only have valid key pairs, right? Every valid KSV, key selection vector, the public key, has 20 of the 40 bits are 1 and the other 20 are 0. All of them, always. But because of that, there's no way to make any combination of them that is just one bit set. No matter what you do, there's an even number of bits set, so not just one. But it doesn't matter so much. We cannot find a unique solution. But do we need to find a unique solution? No, we need to find a solution that works, right? So when we try to reconstruct something from the keys we have, from a bunch of cards, Nvidia cards in this case, it's possible that the authority, what's it called, the licensing authority, HDCP, something with an L, LCT, something.
I don't remember, some it's some Intel branch. It's just Intel.
So it's possible that from whatever master key we come up with, in theory at least, right? It's possible that they can determine what keys we use. And that we don't want that. Well, I don't want that. That's basic operational security. We do not do this. So I filled in randomness for every bit that could not be exactly determined. And the random generator I use is svent42, which is the GNU random number generator thingies. So now everyone can determine if that's actually true, right? If they know my complete code, but
yeah, it would be pretty good obstacle if we didn't like talk on the C3 stage about it or something.
Right. There's more things. Every KSV has exactly 20 bits set, and 20 is a multiple of 4. Whatever number we put, any coordinate, if we add 2 to the 54, something times 2 to the 54, the top 2 bits in every entry in the same column, we add to that. It's multiplied by a multiple of 4, so it's a multiple of 0 in the end. So it's randomness. We can change it like that, and it still produces exactly the same result, no matter what. And the same is true for every row, but the other way around. And for the whole matrix, it can change the top 4 bits, because exactly 400 of the, what's it called in total, 1600? Yeah, 1600 elements of the matrix are added together. But 400 is a multiple of 16. So if we just change the top 4 bits, it adds 0 in total anyway. So, yeah. Okay.
Now is the fun part. You have just determined the HDCP master key. You have it on your drive. Now you want
master key.
Now you want to leak it without everyone knowing it was you. How do you do it?
Well, how do you do it? This was 14 years ago. So what was the first thing we did? We asked WikiLeaks to do it. Yep. But they didn't really want to do it. Oh, it's not political what we did, so they didn't want to do it, basically. And that's fair enough, sure. But we could try. So we had to do it ourselves. So we tweeted it, right? Yeah. Oh.
Yep. We put it on pastebin. We made a Twitter account using Tor. And we just tagged absolutely everyone we could think of. There's like, who did we tag? Trent Reznor? Why did we tag Trent Reznor?
Yeah, there was a few things before Twitter. We put it on Gig, and that didn't work.
Yes, we tried putting it on 4chan, but all we got was a stupid joke from some idiot, and finally CP in HD. It didn't really work for getting the secret key out. But hey, making a Twitter account named Interglobal PR and tagging absolutely everyone involved in security, that worked great. We even tagged Markan because he believed that he should be tagged here to obscure the origin. And
so then I wrote this bloody... Oh. Yeah.
We have made this beautiful instruction.
This bloody big... Oh. Oh, man. There we go. This is a small part. It's 40 lines of incomprehensible hex. But yeah. Important. No matter what, at least it taught me something. So this tweet start, or whatever you want to call it, starts with this is 40 times 40 matrix. I learned how to spell 40, so at least someone learned something here. It's important.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. Oh. There? Yeah. Great.
And then there's the aftermath.
Yeah.
So, what happens when you crack a DRM scheme like this? The answer is that absolutely nothing happens because this is not a cryptographic scheme, whatever you may think. This is a market control thing, rent extraction even.
Right.
The point of HDCP is simple. The point of HDCP is that every HDMI device made has to pay $1 or whatever was the number to Intel for an HDCP key.
Yeah.
It's a business tool to make money from every HDMI device sold. The consequence of leaking the master key was exactly nothing, because everyone who makes an HDMI device still has to pay Intel for an HDCP key. It doesn't matter if it was cracked or not. But hey, at least we...
So there were like 2 replies coming out of Intel. This is the first one. So they said like very seriously, like, "Whoa, it's genuine, whatever that means, but well, it works. That's true. And they're investigating if it was leaked or cracked. If they need to investigate that, there's something wrong with their OPSEC. Yeah. Oh, it's not scrolling.
Well, it is the last slide.
Oh, okay. And the other reply is a lot longer, but I probably cut it off. Right. It's nice. It pretty much says that we reconstructed this key from data instead of it actually being hacked. And that's true.
Like, this is not the real master key that Intel used, but it is completely interoperable with it, which is thanks to the little bit of obfuscation we did.
It's completely interoperable. So, yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it. Thank you.
And the solvency, yeah. Questions?
Yes, thank you very much for the talk. Please, we have plenty of time for questions. So line up for the microphones in the halls. There are 6 so far, I see. So find a microphone and then we can start. And there's also a signal angel. Maybe it's a signal angel first, then the other people can find a microphone.
All right. The internet wonders what mechanism compels manufacturers to use HDCP. Couldn't they just do it DIY? Or could they opt out of the whole thing?
If you don't use HDCP on like your television, none of your customers can display any content that's anywhere protected.
If you play a Blu-ray, the target device needs to have HDCP. You need to get an HDCP key from Intel. You could also, of course, just grab our master key and compute yourself a key. But then Intel will sue you, so it's not really workable if you are a manufacturer that's based in the West. If you are based in China, you can maybe get away with it. I mean, that's another part of why this didn't really change anything. If you wanted to strip HDCP from something, there were already HDCP strippers on the market that just grabbed a key from some chip that was meant to go to some random screen. We just kind of democratized it.
We start with microphone 1.
Hi. Hey, okay. Thank you for your talk. So this was HDCP 1.4, right?
Yeah.
Have you looked into HDCP 2.0?
Okay, yeah.
It's a completely different scheme that's unrelated.
It's completely different. It's actually RSA. It's actually secure. If they would have implemented it anywhere near correctly, it would be actually secure. But they didn't, and somehow they completely got rid of it. And for HDCP 3 and for HDCP 4, they use completely different schemes, which are completely not secure either, right? I don't know.
I mean,
Basically, all of HDCP is obfuscation. It's not encryption.
it's once again just a rent extraction scheme, so you can require
Yeah.
a license for an HDMI port. By the way, one of the design constraints of HDCP1 was, like literally the main constraint of HDCP1 was that it has to fit within 10,000
Yeah,
gates in hardware.
Something like that, yeah. I don't know the actual number, but something like it, yeah.
And that kind of limits what kind of cryptography you can do.
Okay.
Strong cryptography was never at the point.
Yeah, well, you can do a pretty strong cryptography in 10,000 gates. Like AES, you can do AES in 10,000 gates. Easily. You can't do 10 times AES, but yeah. No.
All right. Thank you.
But somehow they never thought it was so important to make any encryption actually secure, because it isn't important. What will happen? Some loser will copy your media without paying for it, and that's all that happens. Who cares?
I mean, if you want to copy media, there are better ways than copying like uncompressed video straight from the video cable.
Sure,
so inefficient, who would do that? You can just grab the compressed stream from Blu-ray or something.
Right. Already before we did this, all of the discs thingies, what is it called, UDTV or whatever, after DVD, whatever. All of that was already hacked. Who cares?
AACS.
But it's not only like copying media, right? Because Apple devices automatically switch on HDCP if there's one sync in a pipeline of, like if you have a crossbar.
Everything, literally everything automatically switches on HDCP.
Yeah.
If you don't, you cannot display any picture, period. And that's exactly the reason why I wanted to hack this. It's not fair. It's my television. I want to display pictures on it that I want to display on it. Right?
Yeah.
Microphone 2, please.
Hi, thanks for the very interesting backstory. Something I noticed in the pastebin, which I didn't actually notice 14 years ago, is a little tidbit where it says this is the matrix for the source. And if you want to have the matrix for the sink, all you need to do is transpose it.
Right.
In any kind of competent secret share agreement scheme, there's no reason for the keys to be related. So is this an actual property of the protocol, or were they just lazy and didn't want to generate two matrices?
It's a property of the protocol. It's something that Wikipedia gets completely wrong. They say HTTP uses the Blom scheme. The Blom scheme, the matrix is symmetrical. It isn't symmetrical. It's very important because it's way easier to invert the matrix if you know it is symmetrical. It's computationally a lot more efficient. It's at least twice as efficient, which is obvious because half of the numbers are the same to the other half of the numbers, right? But it's actually quite a bit more efficient to invert it. But for HDCP, it is asymmetric. Source and sink a different thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next is microphone 6.
Yeah, so you mentioned in the Nvidia thing that the first version was V0 and the next version was V3. Do you happen to know what happened to the versions between that?
Quite honestly, no idea. And also, we kinda call it version 0 because it did not have a version register at that point. So when you tried to read it, you got 0. As far as we know, there could have been more versions, or the version 0 could actually be called something else internally. That's just how it works. Basically, we call the version 3 because it's presented free in a register that has appeared later. Like the versions that we know of are version 0 and then version 3, 4, 5, 6. So Also, I think there was like a 4.1. They have weird numbering scheme.
Okay. We let Intel figure that out. We go back to microphone 2.
You spent 14 years now not talking about this, except for the leak, of course. What compelled you to do the talk now? Is it because...
Oh, last year, basically, last year. Last year, here at CCC, I decided I wanted to do a talk about this. We never did it, right? With, the year we played the clip from, right?
Yeah, basically we met IRL for the first time a year ago on on the Congress, and we decided that
the year we hacked the PS3, we got sued by Sony, right? So maybe we didn't want to expose ourselves at all anyway, right? And it was years ago. So yeah.
So you think that now Intel doesn't care anymore? And
well, I don't care if they care. let's put it that way, yeah.
So I don't see any further questions anymore. Then I guess we thank Wanda and Seher again for the very nice talk about the history of the key.